Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the second episode of the Double Feature Podcast. We made it past the first episode. We're here.
We did. Here we are. Yeah.
Danny's back
I'm
again
down
as
as well.
always, and we're ready to go.
I'm down. I'm the co-host. Yeah, episode 2 now. I'm really looking forward to doing this one as well because with the first episode we were kind of like finding our feet. We didn't quite know what we were doing. It's a bit rough around the edges, but I really enjoyed doing it. And now that we know what we're doing, I've written some notes of like things that I want to talk about, and it's like I was a bit more. I had a bit more kind of enthusiasm, I guess, to kind of like really kind of go for it a bit more this time. So I'm looking forward to it. Kind of going onwards and upwards, really.
Yeah, we're ready to crack on and get down to all that juicy movie news.
Oh yeah. I should say as well, just before we start with this one, I have got a bit of a cold today, so if I end up dying halfway through the podcast, you know why. So I'm sorry, you'll have to probably take over if I do. But yeah, we should crack on with like the first part of our podcast with the movie news that we want to talk, so current affairs in cinema.
Yeah, you want to get us started on that?
Yeah, we are starting on a bit of a sad note this time because I feel as a film podcast, we ought to pay respect to the passing of a legend in cinema, and that is the passing of James Earl Jones, who early this month passed away at the age of 93. Obviously, an iconic actor, an iconic voice actor across God knows how long, like decades worth. His career lasted decades. Of course, played Darth Vader, the voice of Darth Vader in Star Wars, voice of Mufasa in The Lion King, appeared in many classic films like Field of Dreams, Doctor Strangelove, I believe, and, he's one of those iconic actors who defined so many, defined like a generation, and I think, incredible performer, and he'll be missed, so...
Yeah, I mean, he definitely left his mark on cinema. He voiced basically the most famous cinema villain in history. I mean, what rock do you live under if you don't know who Darth Vader is, of course?
Exactly. It's like the voice kind of helped to make obviously the look is iconic, but the voice as well, it helps to make that what it is.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
Just, everybody knows it. It's iconic, yeah. And but yeah, thoughts and prayers, of course, with his family and his fans, and he'll be missed. He'll be greatly missed.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So with our next sort of stuff with the current movie news, there's a couple of trailers that I think we want to talk about. Oh God, please.
I'm Steve.
Oh, please just shoot me now. Somebody shoot me after watching that.
So, who's seen the Minecraft trailer? That was something, wasn't it? That was.
Do you know what my reaction to that trailer was?
Go on.
I gained a newfound appreciation for the Super Mario movie. Because we obviously did a podcast review of the Mario movie when it came out, and I'm not
link in description.
Oh yeah, we'll link it in the description. But I'm obviously not the biggest Mario fan. But I went to see that film, and I don't think it's a particularly great film. It's a pretty standard film, but it gets the look and the vibe of Mario right. What the hell is this shit? Pardon my French, but what the hell is this? What is going on?
I don't know, man. There's just so much.
First of all, what's Jason Momoa wearing? What the hell is that? But that poor man, what is he wearing? Secondly, why is the green screen worse than some of my comedy sketches that I've done? And third, I mean, Jack Black's probably the only good thing, but it's like Minecraft was my childhood, man. This was like your Mario for me, and it's like, why do I get the short end of the stick? This isn't fair.
I mean, I haven't played Minecraft like ever, but I know like basic things about it, and whatever. But it seems more like Jack Black is playing Jack Black in a turquoise shirt.
Yeah, kind of just I got that vibe. It just feels like he's kind of playing himself. I mean, I'm not complaining because we love Jack Black, but it's like I wish he's more of a character. And that's the thing. The thing is with Minecraft, I know you said you haven't played it, but it's not like a narrative-driven game. It's very creative, and you can kind of do anything. And I think it would be really cool to do something like the Lego Movie. Have obviously like this IP, but create your own original story with it, and maybe do something a bit meta. Maybe I don't know, but there's so many things you could have done. What is this? This is just no.
The pink sheep is the new ugly Sonic.
Oh please, just can we move on? Because I'm gonna just No, this is just.
Speaking of which, I forgot to mention earlier, but I'm going to bring it up now. I forgot to mention it in planning. Did you see the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3?
I haven't seen the trailer. Sorry, yeah, I know. Obviously, I know it's coming out in December, but I haven't seen the trailer for it.
This is looking like it might be like the best video game movie ever. Like it is peak. Honestly, it's so good. Definitely.
I will definitely check it out because I've enjoyed the first two. They're decent. I've enjoyed them and whatnot. Also, isn't Jim Carrey like just doing Sonic movies now? That's all he's doing.
Pretty much.
I swear, because he didn't. I swear, he announced it like he was retiring from acting when like Sonic 2 came out. But like that's all he's doing. It's just Sonic movies. I mean, fair enough, but like.
Carrey's back for Sonic 3, and that's great stuff. I mean, we got Keanu in here voicing Shadow. We got a great thing going on here, and I think, judging from the trailer, this one's going to be like leaps and bounds ahead of the other two films in the series. I'm expecting very good things.
I do think they are kind of getting better because I think as they've progressed, they've been getting more confident. You know, more like Sonic movies. I think as they've progressed, I think this one, by the sounds of it, it's really kind of really building it up more and like adding more to it. I think it's a good like upward trajectory. Yeah.
I noticed with a lot of video game movies and series, they'll start quite safe with movies, and then like sequels, they'll build on it more and try and do better things with the films. I think that's what Sonic is doing, so I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, tends to be the trend. Yeah. Speaking of trailers, there's one trailer. It's not necessarily the trailer itself, but there's been a mad fiasco about this, right? So, this is a bit less mainstream, but there's a new film coming out called Megalopolis. It's the new film from Francis Ford Coppola, who obviously, iconic director, directed like The Godfather trilogy, Apocalypse Now. Also, I finally watched the Godfather movies recently, so that's a bit of a film bro rite of passage there. But yeah, his new film, Megalopolis, is coming out. There's been some bizarre things, and they had released a trailer not long ago. And there was a weird thing at the beginning of this trailer where, for a lot of like Coppola's older films, like The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Dracula, they show like negative reviews for these beloved classics, and it turns out they were AI, they were fake reviews, they weren't real, which was it was a bizarre marketing stunt. They took the trailer down after that. I think the marketing guy got fired for that, but it was a bizarre move. It really was.
I'm sorry, let me get it straight. They got AI reviews of his old films to promote this new one?
Yeah, I think their thought process was like, look at all the, these iconic classics like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. They got negative reviews, but they were still classics. Megalopolis will always talk about. Because the thing is, Megalopolis has a bit of it's had a bizarre history, like production history, like all the financing stuff, and it had a bit of a lukewarm, mixed reception at like film festivals, like Cannes Film Festival and whatnot. So I think they're kind of trying to be like, hey, give it a chance, It's been a bizarre roller coaster, and I'm definitely going to go see it. But that was a bizarre marketing stunt that they did.
Yeah, I mean, AI is such a hot topic in cinema. The fact to do like a whole marketing stunt using AI reviews, negative ones at that, it's a really strange choice.
It was. Yeah, it was like AI generated reviews and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing is though, I was gonna do a video on it, but I didn't end up doing it. But I think what I was looking at is because when I watched that trailer, it looked weird. Like there's some of the reviews, some of them looked like they were just saying the same thing, just differently worded. So that was kind of a giveaway. It was like a beautiful mess, a triumph in style over substance. That's the exact same thing, just worded differently. But also, there's some of them seem too colloquial for like 70s movies. So like one of the fake reviews for Apocalypse Now was an epic piece of trash. That seems quite colloquial and doesn't seem right for like the 1970s, especially as well for what is supposed to be a professional movie critic and a journalist. That seems like something we would say,
Yeah.
But it's true. Like that was again another kind of giveaway for me. But yeah, it was a bizarre thing, and I really wanted to kind of get it off my chest.
That is certainly an interesting idea, but I'm surprised I went for it.
Yeah, but screw AI, yeah. But that's it for like all the trailers I think we want to talk about. Is that right?
You did want to mention a certain re-release.
Yes, and it is in fact of a film that we have talked about already. So obviously the last episode we talked about Shaun of the Dead. For its 20th anniversary, it's getting a cinematic re-release, and I would really like to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I probably won't see it because I saw it quite recently, and I've not got a lot of time coming up in like the next couple of months to do stuff. But it's very cool that they like re-release these films and you get a chance to watch it again, or like if you weren't even around when it was in cinema, you can watch it now.
Exactly, yeah.
It's quite a cool experience and it helps keep cinemas alive.
It does, yeah. I think it's really cool. It'll be a great thing to do, and even though yes, I obviously watched it for the podcast recently, I got no qualms of rewatching it. It's one of my favourite films, as we know, so I ain't got any qualms about rewatching it. So.
Yeah, another one that re-released recently that I watched in cinema was I'm going to do this one in character. I watched The Terminator at the cinema. It was 40 years old. They restored it in 4K HD in cinema. Just very.
Is this
good.
Just like? Is this wrong to do?
I don't know.
Yeah, so it was the original one, wasn't it? The original.
Yeah, it was the first one. So it came out 40 years ago. They restored it into real HD. It still holds up pretty well. I mean, the stop motion on the Terminator and like kind of the final sequence obviously looks a little bit dated, but otherwise it looks pretty fine. And it's just this classic Arnie film. Great storyline. I'll be back.
Iconic. You please tell me that you went to the cinema with some sunglasses on. Please tell me you did that.
No.
Oh,
I did not.
You are shocking, mate. You are. This is a disgrace. This is just shocking, man. Yeah. No, to be fair though, I do really love the first two Terminator films. They are iconic, great pulpy action films. And yeah, obviously they do have a kind of charm like of their time, but they're still really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's always a good time. Let's see what else.
Are there any other like new movies?
New movies, yeah. So, remember when we talked about bad video game movies, like like this Minecraft trailer? Well, I mean, one that got a lot of pretty bad reviews, and I don't really understand why, was Borderlands. I don't know anything about the games. I watched it just because the trailer looked decent. It's got a decent cast in it, I'm up for anything with Kevin Hart and Jack Black in it. But it was one of those movies that was kind of just all right. Like, it was better than I expected because my expectations were low because of all the critic reviews. I don't know. It was a fun time, so I don't see what people necessarily hated about it to have it rank about as bad on like rating sites as Madam Web is rated. I think there's a real misalignment there.
Yeah, this film, obviously I did see trailers for it. It wasn't really one that kind of drew me in. I haven't seen that, probably won't watch it, but I mean, if you enjoyed that, that's good, and yeah, I think for me, like the worst kind of films are like if they're fun, that's at least something. Either if a film's either boring or kind of has a bit of like it's quite mean spirited, that's when it's like that's kind of the worst of the worst for me anyway.
Yeah, but I think it was quite fun.
That's good then. That's good that you enjoyed it.
Another one I've got on my list is so obviously like when you think of like if I was to say to you massive plot twists at the end, the first director comes to your head is M. Night Shyamalan, right? He was the twist guy when he did like Sixth Sense, Signs, Unbreakable.
There's always a twist at the end.
But his new movie Trap, this was a really good film. I really enjoyed this one. And like interestingly, the trailer seemed to give away the twist. Like it just told you straight up. But the idea with this one is there was a lot of kind of little twists here and there of what was going on. Basically, it's not really spoilers for anyone at home. All this information's in the trailer, but it's about a guy who takes his daughter to a concert and this guy is a killer, and it turns out the entire concert was a setup to trap this guy, so that everyone who goes to this concert would be checked on the way out and everything by all the forces so that they can find and catch this killer. So he's got to try and find a way out of the arena without being caught.
That's actually a pretty cool premise, I gotta say.
It was really quite good. It really kept you guessing what was going to happen. It's weird though. It's twisted in a way that you actually kind of find yourself rooting for the killer to escape. You kind of want him to find a way out. You're kind of
aligned with him in a way.
Yeah, it's just like, you want to see if he makes it, and because the whole plot basically, in a way, he's the protagonist despite being like, a criminal.
Evil.
Yeah, but it's a very
interesting.
interesting film. I would recommend that one. It's one, obviously, I think Shyamalan's on the up lately. He's done some good movies
I
recently.
swear, I swear to God, he just craps out movies nowadays. I know he like finances them himself, but I swear to God, he just craps out movies like how many movies has he done in like the past like 5 years? It's like loads.
I'm not sure, but some of his more recent ones have been good. Knock on the
Yeah,
Cabin last year was all right. Old was pretty decent as well. So he's doing some better stuff, and I think
yeah.
Trap's the best he's done in quite a while.
It seems interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I adore The Sixth Sense, so that's still the kind of creme of the creme. That is for me. That
Yeah,
is
Sixth
creme of the
Sense
creme.
is just like that. I wish I could forget the plot twist so I could be surprised by it again. It was
Yeah.
just so
Oh
amazing when
man,
it
yeah.
happened. I was like, whoa.
It's one of those where you feel like so stupid at the end. It's like, how did you not see it? You know, it's like,
Yeah,
man,
all the signs were
it's
there. You
great.
just didn't pick them up. But it's just like
It's brilliant.
once you look
It's
back at it,
brilliant.
it's like, oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I have a little, I have one more thing to talk about with this current news segment, and
Uh
that
huh.
is, I haven't seen it yet, but I want to, and it is the new Beetlejuice movie, Beetlejuice. I've just said his name 3 times, so we're screwed. But I'm really looking forward to this. Obviously, Tim Burton's new film, and it looks to be a bit of a return to form for him because he kind of trailed off in like the 2010s. With a lot of like crappy remakes and what have you. But this is looking pretty good just from the looks of things, and I adore the first Beetlejuice. It's one of my favourites, and I actually got to see it in the cinema when I was younger, like for its 30th anniversary on
Oh
Halloween
yeah.
night as well, which was a
Oh,
great.
that's
It was a
nice.
great experience. Yeah, that was a while ago now. It's like 2018. It would have been. Yeah,
Oh
it was a long
yeah.
time ago.
Yeah, I
But
never
no,
saw the first
yeah.
one. I never saw it. It's on my recorded list. I might watch it, and then I might watch the second one at cinema if I like the first one. But never saw him.
Ah, yeah.
It's
Yeah, I really love that. Yeah, so it's what I'm looking forward to. And also Willem Dafoe in a Tim Burton film. That is a match made in heaven.
yeah.
Yeah. How has he never been in a Tim Burton film? I'll never know.
I don't know. Last one I'm
Um,
going to bring up
but
before we get on to kind of the main event of current cinema is just a brief drop on Amazon, straight to Amazon Prime movie called Jackpot. I found this one quite interesting. So the
uh,
premise is in the future in California they've set up this lottery, massive lottery. And the idea is you buy a ticket to this lottery, and if you win, you've got to basically make it till sundown to get that cash reward, which is in like for the main character, it's like $3.6 billion. But the
oh
trick
yeah.
is everyone else who has a losing ticket has to try and kill you before sundown to claim that money.
How lovely.
But there's no bullets allowed. It's got to be close combat. So you've got this person trying to escape like with this cash money without being killed by the end of the day. It was quite a fun one. It's got John Cena in it, and he's done some.
I'm sorry, just the way you went from this bloke's got to avoid getting killed. It was really fun. just the whiplash there. That just got me that day.
It sounds kind of like like grim, but it's quite a fun movie. It's comedy. It's got John
Is it?
Cena in it. He's done some decent comedies recently, I think. Like it's just like it's a good one for a fun time. It's got
Oh yeah.
Simu Liu in as well, the guy who plays Shang-Chi. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
and
yes, yeah.
Aquafina as well.
He was one of. I know he was one of Ken's in Barbie, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's got quite a few big names in it, but it was a pretty decent film just for a good time.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. Yeah, but
A lot of
but
killing.
that's all
It's
the
fun
current.
though.
A lot of murder, fun for all the family.
Yeah.
um, but I think that's all the current news that we've got. I believe
Yeah, we're on to the main event now for our little
it's the
spotlight.
it's the spotlight movie, isn't it? Alien Romulus. So it's
Romulus.
God knows how many sequel to Ridley Scott's classic from 1979, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Now
I think this is
we
the
haven't.
seventh film. If you don't include any Alien versus Predators, I think this is the seventh.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've only seen the first two. Obviously, Ridley Scott's Alien and also Jim Cameron's Aliens. They're the only ones I've seen. I've always been kind of nervous to check out the sequels because I know they're kind of crap. Some of them
All
are.
right. Yeah,
But,
I've actually watched all of
yeah.
them pretty recently, except for obviously I saw the second one, but that was a few years ago. but I watched all the other ones quite recently, and
Oh, did you?
I think most of them are pretty good. I'd say three and Covenant are probably a bit weaker, but overall they're all solid, I guess.
I will check them out actually. And watching Romulus has kind of inspired me to maybe give them a chance. So but yeah, overall, let's just get like a little sort of summary overall of what we both think of it. Starting with you.
Okay, yeah. So at the point of watching this, I had only seen Alien 1, 2, and Prometheus. And knowing Prometheus, I felt did help with this movie, but it's not a prerequisite. It's not not an absolute necessity to have watched Prometheus, but it does help. But this movie, I don't know. I think this is my favorite one in the series. I really liked what this one did. It had kind of that similar feel to kind of the first one. Once they actually got up onto the spaceship. I think obviously the effects are better now than they were. I think the story's similar yet different. Like it's got the formula, but it's still kind of like mixes it up a little bit. I think there were a lot of interesting parts to it. I think one thing that was quite interesting was obviously spoilers, by the way. When we do a spotlight film, we're getting spoilers, so just watch out at home. I think an interesting part was like there was a scene where she shoots a whole bunch of the aliens, and they're like, and it's like in anti-gravity, and their kind of acid blood is flying around, and she's got to like dodge it. And this was something I believe that was in the Alien Isolation video game, so it was quite interesting. They took a lot of inspiration from the video game because it was quite popular at the when that came out. I think overall it was a really good experience. I will say though, there was like a jump scare at the end where the offspring, who you think's just gone into space, kind of pops back. Genuinely made me jump out of my seat. Like I don't get jump scared that bad anymore by movies, but that got me. Like that was like, oh. But I think overall it was a very good film. And I'm definitely glad I saw it in IMAX. It was definitely worth the big screen.
Right, I feel like I'm going to be a complete party pooper here, but for me, I was not very impressed with Alien Romulus. Overall, there were some really good elements and sequences in it. There were also certain things in it that I thought were really not very good. But on the whole, for me, it was trying to play it too safe, and I understand because of how bonkers the sequels have gotten. Like the Prometheus especially was kind of meant to be quite bonkers. I get the kind of wanting to go back to basics, but for me, that meant it was playing it too safe. It felt very mediocre, a bit dull, and I was honestly just kind of bored by it. It didn't do anything. It has the look and vibe of the original Aliens, but doesn't really have anything that different. Like it's still like a base under siege on a space station to me, and it's like if I want that, I will go back to the original. This isn't really giving me anything new. Like it's not giving me enough new for me. And when I feel like they absolutely could have done something new, but still retain the kind of look and spirit of the originals, I wasn't a fan personally.
That's interesting. It's good to have two different kind of perspectives.
I feel like I'm going to get sacked from the podcast.
No, you're done. You're banned. Get out.
No, I won't.
But no, it's good to have different perspectives as well. Obviously, it gives kind of both sides of the coin to the viewers and the listeners. So
but I think
I quite liked it. I'm going to really drop myself in the in kind of the controversial zone here. I found the first film a bit slow.
You're wrong, but
I found the first film a bit slow, and I think this one had a bit better pacing, in my opinion.
Thing is, I can't really disagree with you saying it's slow because it's definitely a slow burn, but I think it's one of those cases where a slow burn for the first film anyway, I think it works really well. I think. And actually, you've actually brought me onto a point that I wanted to make. I think there's a certain in terms of like how it's paced and whatnot. Both the first film and Romulus, there's a kind of comparison I want to make, and it's specifically how they both do the chestburster scene, and that kind of proves. I wanted to kind of like back up my point of why I didn't really care for Romulus. So, in Romulus, you say it's obviously a bit faster paced, you know. It's a bit quicker, but I felt like with the chestburster scene, it kind of rushes through it because obviously you have the facehugger attack, them trying to get it off, and then you're from that point in Romulus, you're constantly on edge. You know, it's still the tension's still there, And when the chest burster happens, the tension is still there, and it doesn't really fluctuate. It's all at that same level, and it doesn't really play with the audience emotions like that. It doesn't sort of stretch out like the suspense and the build-up. Whereas in the first film, obviously you have the facehugger attack, them trying to get it off, the threat of the acid blood is introduced. But then when Kane, who got attacked in the first film, when he kind of recovers from that, the characters like they're just having they're joking about, they're having banter, and there's obviously that dinner scene, and it sort of calms down, sort of lulls you into a false sense of security, and so you're a little bit on edge, but you've sort of been calmed down, and they're all having like cracking wines at the table and whatnot, and then Kane starts to choke. And you're like, oh crap, here we go, and the tension racks up again. And also when the chest burst happens and all the blood spurts as well, the cast of the original didn't know that was going to happen, so their reactions were genuine. And I think it's that playing of how the emotions like change constantly, and I think it's really effective, and the kind of slower, more methodical build up I think works. But Romulus, I feel like, just kind of rushes it, and it just falls a bit flat. And that's kind of how I felt about a lot of the film and what it did.
Well, that's certainly an interesting take on it. I think it's obviously it is two very different things. Of like, one's trying to like, it gets tense and it kind of rests a bit, and then it gets tense. And it kind of keeps the suspension by not necessarily being suspenseful the whole time. Whereas the other one kind of just kept it so level that it was like like you were saying, is I kept it so level that it didn't really have such a big effect and impact. It didn't hit quite as hard.
That's what it is for me. I'm not saying it was like poorly done necessarily. It just kind of felt a bit flat for me. It wasn't sloppily done or anything though. I'm not saying that. But I think it could have been so much more, and that's what a lot of what I feel about the film. In fact, because it just felt very similar. Like, they're on a space station again, and they do expand on certain moments, like with the facehugger threat. That bit when they're in like the tank and all the facehuggers. That's a good sequence on its own, but again, doesn't really justify the whole film. I think it's a good sequence, a nice build on the facehuggers though, like adding a bit more threat to them, and like you mentioned with the acid blood thing in the anti-grav. I love the anti-grav bit. That was really good, and I like the visuals of all the acid sort of floating around and whatnot. It did get a little bit repetitive after a while with the acid. It's like you get this, okay, we can, but I do like that visual. It's quite cool though. It's quite a bit surreal, a bit strange, and quite creative. I like that bit.
Yeah, but I think it's good that we've got like these different perspectives on it. But at least we can agree Aliens is really good.
Aliens is great. I mean, obviously my favourite is the original Ridley Scott one. It's just kind of, it's my kind of thing, but I do love what obviously Aliens does. And that's the thing, Aliens, yes, it has the look and vibe of the first film, but it does a complete genre shift. It's more of an action film. It's a bit of it's a proper like 80s action film. And introduces new concepts like the Alien Queen and whatnot. That's how you do a great sequel. I think Romulus just sticks too closely to what the first film was doing, and it's like if personally for me anyway, if I want that, I'm gonna go and watch the original. That's my sort of, that's how I sort of feel about that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and it's quite good as well that like Aliens manages that kind of genre switch. I think as well is that,
and without feeling jarring either.
Yeah, I think as well there's like Aliens 3 and maybe 4 are also still kind of that action style that the second one has, but then Prometheus and Covenant are kind of somewhere in between the horror and the action.
Prometheus, Ridley Scott came back, didn't he?
I think so, yeah, but Prometheus was pretty decent. It's kind of like a really far before prequel.
Yeah.
And I think Covenant was Covenant's probably like even my second or worse, like, and in the bottom of them that had some interesting ideas. Covenant kind of goes into how the aliens, the xenomorphs, were created, so I think that's quite an interesting one. But that and Michael Fassbender are basically the only things carrying Covenant.
I say I haven't seen those Prometheus films yet. I will check them out though, because the thing is, what Romulus kind of taught me is like, even though some of the sequels can be a bit bonkers and wild, they're at least distinct and memorable. They're doing something a bit different, and that's kind of what I want from Romulus. In fact, my favourite part of the film was actually the beginning when they're on the planet instead.
Oh,
that was actually my favourite part. That was actually my favourite part of the film, because I thought it obviously had the kind of like grungy sci-fi vibe of the original '79 Alien, but it was on the planet, and it was exploring like the company and this sort of world, this sort of almost like dystopian world. There's no daytime, is there, and whatnot, and the kind of very repressive society, and they're trying to get off the planet and they can't because they don't have like clearance and what have you. I think you could have. I think what I would have done is kind of reverse it. So have the first 10 minutes on maybe a space station, and the alien comes down to the planet, and then you've got like a whole host of victims that you can potentially have. It could literally be an alien invasion. Yeah. I think that could have been a really cool sort of twist on the franchise, but still in keeping with the spirit of what Alien is about. I think that could have been quite interesting.
Yeah, if only the people who wrote the Alien films were watching this. Take notes, guys, take notes.
Yeah. Alien Invasion, directed by Dan Clayton and starring Nicolas Cage. No, Nicolas Cage is the alien though. That's what happens.
Oh man.
Oh man, that's quality. But in terms of, actually, I was making that point about obviously the world and whatnot, and another sort of point I was making about with that a sort of extension of that is the character of Andy, who's like the android character in the film. He was my favourite character in the film because I thought he was the most interesting, exploring his perspective as an android, and also when they obviously reprogram him to be kind of loyal to the company, it gave the actor the chance to show more range. So he goes from kind of like quite timid and shy and nervous to very cold and blunt and detached. I thought that was a really cool thing. But the rest of the cast, like, I couldn't tell you anything about them, frankly.
Yeah, I think the Andy was definitely the best kind of character, really, and I think it was like the best acting performance in that one. It was quite interesting watching how this robot character kind of shifts between directives based on the upgrade, and how the kind of his whole demeanor, and even you can kind of tell his voice as well changes. Like it's just like a complete character swap, but it's done well enough. It's not like too jarring. Like it's the same character, but like there's like this real undertone of difference, and I think that was quite good.
Yeah, I think that was a really good thing, and it was something that I think in terms of like obviously the world building with the company and whatnot, it's something that I thought was a nice thing to explore. They could have maybe expanded on it further, but I was happy with that. Something I wasn't happy though in terms of like the android characters, it's the character of Rook, who is modelled off Ash from the original film played by Ian Holm, who passed away a few years ago. But they used like his likeness, even though it's not even the same character. It was like a destroyed model, and like used like AI enhancements, again AI, but they use like kind of enhancements and whatnot. Right, first of all, it looks like arse. It looks like one of those puppets from Team America. It looks awful. It genuinely was. It was more horrifying to me than the actual xenomorph that was, frankly. But I don't know what they would do. Why was he there? Why couldn't it have just been like another android character? Because that's the great thing about this franchise, like the iconography of it. So even like the milk blood, oh yeah, that's one of the androids. Why not just have it as a different character? Kind of just like partly destroyed. It's just it was just bizarre and off-putting, and it was just really unnecessary, and it really took me out of the film.
Yeah, it did seem weird, like, if it's not the same character, but it's the same, they're using the same kind of actor's face and everything, it's just like, what's the point? It's just like, it wasn't particularly necessary to do that in the film.
Yeah, exactly. And as I was saying, that's not even getting into like the whole moral thing of using like a dead actor's likeness. There's obviously that whole conundrum as well. But yeah, even if it was, it's just pointless to the plot, and it's distracting overall. When he keeps popping up, it's just unnecessary. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's probably one of the few criticisms I have of the film as well. Is it felt a bit unnecessary, and it did look a little off.
That's putting it mildly. It looked a little off. That.
Just a little off.
It genuinely, it looked like one of those puppets from Team America. It genuinely did. That's my first thought when I saw it. Yeah, it was quite yeah. But yeah, overall, it was just kind of there was like the film overall had these kind of noteworthy moments and sequences and such, but I just on the whole, it was just quite a hollow experience, and yeah, as I say, it's not sloppily made or anything. It's well put together. The production design, the effects and whatnot. Yeah, it's really well put together. But it could have been a lot more. It could have been a lot more. And yeah, that's kind of why I'm like sick of like legacy sequels, like the constantly, because like if you're not going to do anything new with them, why are we just constantly, why are we constantly going back to all these old franchises? Like, we have all these old, it's like, it's just, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Any final remarks you want to make on the movie before we head to our next segment here?
I don't know. Have you got anything else that you wanna add?
I mean, I don't have too much more to say that I haven't already said, but I think I'd give the film a solid 7 out of 10, personally.
Oh, right. I thought you were going to give it higher, to be honest. Because I'd probably give it like a 5, like a very middle of the road, bang average sort of rating. It just wasn't. I say I wasn't a fan of it overall. It wasn't awful, but it just kind of left very little impact on me. But I thought you were going to give it higher, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just like I don't get 10s very often, so it's basically between 2 and 9, because I don't give 1s often either. I think I've given maybe 2 1s in my life. I think one of those was Halloween 3. It's I think the site, and it obviously wasn't a 9 or anything, so it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe 7.5 for me. But I quite enjoyed it. It's not quite pushed the 8 boundary for me, but it's definitely up there. I mean, 7's a good score for me. I usually give most things kind of a 5 or a 6, and if they're kind of.
I am glad that I'm glad that you enjoyed it more than me. And I don't want to take that away, but I just wanted to kind of explain, because I know a lot of people have been really kind of raving on this movie, and it just didn't do for me. But I'm glad that you enjoyed it though. So yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So on to part 3 now. This will be.
I like to call this the blast from the past segment. If we can call it that, because I love calling it that. But yeah, it's where we talk about the old movies that we've selected.
Yeah. So we decided on this one that there's no particular stipulations or themes, so we're just going to pick a movie that we want to talk about that the other person may not have seen. And so I'm going to let you go first in this one. So yeah, what have you got in store for us today?
Oh, I'm going first, am I? Oh, right.
Yeah.
So my film of choice, I actually rewatched it the other day to prep for the podcast, but I watched this film first in January and fell in love with it, and I've wanted to talk about it for God knows how long. And it sort of links to, think about when we were talking about Beetlejuice 2 earlier, obviously Tim Burton. It's a Tim Burton film, and obviously people are going back to his films. It's not one of his most iconic ones, but a lot of people who've seen it will say it's his best film, and that is 1994's Ed Wood, obviously directed by Tim Burton, and starring Johnny Depp as the titular Ed Wood. So if I had a nickel for every film directed by Tim Burton that stars Johnny Depp as a character called Ed Wood, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. But yeah, Ed Wood. I love doing the Doofenshmirtz voice, but yeah, Ed Wood. Basically Ed Wood is a biopic film on. It's very much a film about films, right? So it's a biopic on the infamous B-movie director of like the 1950s and whatnot, called Edward D. Wood Jr. or Ed Wood for short. And he was renowned for making all these like really crappy, low-budget B-movies, like sci-fi horror movies that were kind of really cheesy and they're hysterically bad. There's so many errors in them, and but they're really charming. They're like proper like cult classics. Like some of them, like Plan 9, have been voted like the worst movies of all time. I think Ed Wood himself was voted as the worst director of all time. So this is like pre-Tommy Wiseau. These are proper like cult viewings. But the Ed Wood biopic is a great look into that, and kind of it's a look into the creation of 3 of his most infamous films. Those being Glen or Glenda, Bride of the Monster, and Plan 9 from Outer Space. So I don't think you've seen this film, have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah. Have you heard of it?
Possibly. I might have heard of it. I'm not sure.
As I say, it's not one of Tim Burton's most iconic films. It's not like a Beetlejuice or an Edward Scissorhands or a Batman. But a lot of people who see this one say it's his best, and I would agree. It's my favourite Tim Burton film. Absolutely, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely his most like grounded film, because obviously he's got a very specific style. He's very fantastical and imaginative with all the different creature designs and all the weird worlds that he creates and whatnot. Ed Wood is pretty much just like a straight-faced drama, and it has like style. It's shot in black and white, so it kind of obviously apes the style of those old 50s sort of sci-fi horror movies. And there's certain tricks that he does, like to kind of ape those genres. So like the shadows and the ghouls and the coffins, like the kind of horror elements. But he does it in a way to kind of highlight the real horrors that may have been going on in those people's lives, because it is just like a straight faced drama about Edward's life and his kind of enthusiasm for just making movies, even though he didn't have any money to do it. He just loved making movies and went for it. And I think there's even though it is his most grounded film, it's probably his most optimistic, probably his most wholesome in a way, because it's just really, it's not very cynical. It's not taking the piss out of Edward when you can very easily do that. It's like, oh, look how crap his movies are. No, it's a real earnest look into this guy who just loved what he did, and it's as an aspiring creative, I love that. I think it is really inspiring. That is.
I mean, yeah, it definitely sounds like the kind of movie that would resonate with you, and yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out at some point. So when was this film from again?
Sorry?
When was the film from? What year was it?
Oh, sorry, it was 1994. So 30 years old now. But yeah, it was 1994 was a great year. But this one is a proper. It's a bit I'd say it's a bit of a cult classic. It doesn't really. It did sort of go a little bit under the radar, but yeah, I love it. I love it to bits. Probably, honestly, Johnny Depp's best performance for me. I think there's a lot of range. There's some great subtlety. Obviously, there's a kind of wide-eyed optimism in certain scenes, but also kind of like a malaise and an insecurity done in a really subtle way. That it's very nuanced. A great performance, but you also have the star of the show, who won an Oscar for this film, actually, Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi. So Bela Lugosi actually worked with Edward, and Bela Lugosi was the very first screen Dracula back in the old 30s Universal monster movies. I know you know about them, those ones. But Bela Lugosi, he played the original Dracula back then, but by the 50s he was just a washed up actor. And Edward kind of gave him a new lease of life by making movies with him, and it's brilliant to see. Great performances, great humour. Martin Landau is amazing, but also he's a broken man. He turned to drugs because he had nothing left, and it's difficult to watch. It's tricky to watch at points, and it's a brilliant performance, and the film strikes that right balance of exploring the dark subject matter, but has a great wit, a great dry wit, and a great sense of fun and enthusiasm. It's a blast to watch as well, and to see Eddie make all these movies, it's great. I love it.
Oh, that's good. That's an interesting one to bring.
And the thing is, of course, even if not everybody has seen Edward's 50s movies and whatnot, but I think even if you haven't seen them, I still recommend the Edward movie, and that can be a gateway to check out some of these movies. I definitely have after checking it out. Plan 9 is an absolute riot if you're drunk and with mates. They are so hysterically bad, some of them are, but they're so, that's the thing, they're so earnest. And I was talking about this earlier, the worst kind of films are the ones that are boring or mean-spirited. Edward was never like that. There was a real earnestness. He just loved making movies, telling stories, and I respect that about him. I really do. And it's just great. Overall, it's just great. There's so many great characters, so many great lines, and as somebody who is into that kind of thing of who wants to go into that kind of field of making movies, it's really inspiring to me. And seeing also how kind of movies were made back in the 50s with how constricted they could be with the technology and the equipment, and also the budget constraints that they would have on that kind of thing. So even stuff like shooting on film, instead of shooting with a digital camera, they actually had the film, and they couldn't do all these retakes because it would cost time and money to do that. And I just think that's a kind of bit of an eye opener. But yeah, I'd love it to bits. I love it to bits.
Anything else you want to add on Ed Wood?
I don't know. I think I just wanted to kind of get across how much I bloody love this film, because it's such a blast to watch. It's so entertaining. It's not pretentious in any way. It's, as I say, really earnest and just really well made. I love obviously the black and white cinematography. It looks really great. Some great humour, great one-liners and whatnot, and a great cast all around. Some fantastic actors in it. Bill Murray. It's one of my favourite Bill Murray performances. He's in it. And I really like what he does. He's quite sassy in this one, but he's obviously Bill Murray's quite deadpan usually, but this is a little bit different. Love seeing him in there, and it's just overall great. And and we love Martin Landau. We love Martin Landau. Woo! He was great in it. Won an Oscar, and But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about Edward. I might do like a full video on it, maybe, but because there's loads of like little details that I picked up on the rewatch of it. There's loads of details that I picked up on, and I might do a video on it on my own channel. But yeah, I think that's all I've kind of got to say about Edward here. So, what do you have about what's your film of choice this week?
I've gone with something completely opposite to what you've gone for. I don't know if you would have seen it, but this is probably one of my favorite kind of action sci-fi movies of all time. It comes from 2013. It was directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I know what it is.
It is a film about humans building these giant mechs to fight underwater aliens. Is Pacific Rim. One of my absolute favorite films. This was my definitive favorite film until Infinity War came out. Like, solid 5 years, this was my favorite. I have watched it hundreds of times. Like, it's probably the only film I've ever listened to director's commentary on. But I haven't seen it in like a solid while as well. I haven't seen it in about 3 years at least. But I need to rewatch it. But it's so good. I thought I'd bring it up because not only is it just one of my favorite films in general, and it's just like, it's a film that definitely didn't get a rather maligned sequel, but it's
you know what the worst part is? I have seen the sequel, but I haven't seen the first film.
I'm lost for words.
Yeah, I don't know what I fell asleep. I think it was just like it was on TV, and I just was watching it, and I fell asleep watching it because it was that boring. But
that's terrible that you watched the sequel, but not the first one. You know what? You're banned. Get out. Get off the podcast.
No,
you're done.
No,
you're done, bro.
No, I'm not. No, shut up. You.
But no. So it kind of had a kind of badly received sequel, and then it kind of fell dead. And then there was an anime on Netflix of it, which was pretty decent. And now it seems like Del Toro's working on a live-action prequel now, which could be cool. I'm very up for that. But yeah, so Pacific Rim. So basically, one day these aliens come out of the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, and this first one, Trespass, comes up and he just starts shredding at the Golden Gate Bridge and everything. It takes him like days to kill this thing. Giant thing. They call them kaiju. It's the Japanese word for alien.
Yeah.
Or a monster. It's like Godzilla's a kaiju, for example, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So then humans decide to start building these big-ass mechs to fight them off. And the idea is that you have two pilots inside these robots, and their minds get connected, and then they kind of function together as one, and they control the movements of this mech, and we just beat up the kaiju. And it opens with the main kind of opening sequence. Like, it goes into just instantly this fight against this kaiju knife head, and it's got like the main character and his brother piloting Gypsy Danger. It's just that fight scene in itself is just so well done. There's a lot that Del Toro does with this film with scales, having such small things juxtaposed against such large robots and aliens fighting each other, that just kind of works really well. But I think the opening fight between Gypsy Danger and Knifehead really sets the tone for the film. It kind of fast forwards after that a bit later in the future, and there's only about 4 mechs still rocking around. And this was probably the first film I saw Idris Elba in. He's in this one. So he kind of assembles a team of pilots to use these last couple of mechs, because he's got a plan on how to destroy the breach that the aliens come for at the bottom of the ocean. I think it's a film that's just like, when you're like, see, I think I was like 10. I was like 10 at the time it came out, and maybe 9. And I think going into it was kind of just like, I used to go to this really massive screen that was like in a city. There was like a really massive screen that's I don't think it's not public accessible anymore. It's part of a university now, but so I watched on this giant screen, and I was really young. And it was just so epic. Really, I think there's a lot that really works with it. The directing is great. The actors are great. I think the score is really good as well. I think it's got a really good kind of soundtrack to it. It's just like it's just a really solid action film. Like personally, I think it's like the best kind of kaiju film that they've got, and I'm really excited to see kind of a prequel coming up. But like, I knew I'd have to talk about Pacific Rim at some point because like I went for so much of my life I just like loving this film and I would watch it so many times. Like there were points where I knew like most of the words just off of memory. But
I will definitely give it a watch soon because it's one that I have had my eye on.
Trust me, it's way better than the sequel. Look, so much better than the sequel. Don't worry, this one's really good.
Yeah.
I think there's just so much cool about this film. I mean, it's not like the most profound movie in existence. It's not going to be, but it's a kaiju film. But it's just it. I don't know. Maybe it's a bias thing, but just when I was a little kid and just like seeing something of this scale, that was just so grand and massive. It was just really awesome.
That's the thing as well, because obviously I haven't seen Pacific Rim, but I have seen a few other Guillermo del Toro films like Shape of Water, his Pinocchio adaptation that he did recently, Pan's Labyrinth, which is one of the films I had to study in my film class, and won't get into that because it was not a film that I was mad on. But he does have that kind of like capture of like he will kind of capture like childlike wonder in a lot of his films, and is very, very imaginative, very visual, and I imagine Pacific Rim is like that as well, very visual film.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good visuals in this film. There's a lot of very cool kind of one shots and a lot of cool kind of like I said about the scale. There's there's this one bit that's quite interesting where one of the mechs kind of punches his hand through a building, and there's little office desk toys, the little beads that kind of bounce off each other. Like the giant robot fish just kind of gently taps it, and I think there's just like it gives you kind of this real sense of like scale of the fight. And just how giant these, not only the monsters are, but also the mechs that they've had to build, and how kind of a large threat the whole thing is when these kaijus just keep coming, and they just keep coming, and they get bigger, and they get more powerful, and then they start coming in twos. It's just like, the whole thing just kind of builds upwards until you get to like the just kind of like the final sequence where it's just like they throw everything they've got at it, and it's just, it's got a real good build to it, I think. I really need to rewatch it, man. It's so good. And Idris Elba gives like one of the best motivational speeches, like in like movies, like just before the final push of it. Like it's got real good performances all around. I mean, it's got it's got Charlie Day in it, and it's quite a grounded performance, but at the same time, he's still got that kind of crazy that he has in a lot of other things he does. Charlie Hunnam from probably best known from Sons of Anarchy's in it. Idris Elba, like I said, it's got quite a few good names in it. I just think this movie is like a core memory from my childhood. Like it's just, I love it. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to say on Pacific Rim. But like, that's a solid 9 out of 10 film for me. 9.5 out of 10. Like, that's up there. I'm not going to let bias.
It's definitely a film that
I'm not
really
going to let bias push me to a 10,
out,
but it's definitely high up.
I do really like Del Toro as a director, and he's got a great like visual sort of style, and he's kind of like the perfect like blend between like a big budget blockbuster director and also a more indie director. More personal, auteur driven sort of stuff. So yeah, I think I will definitely give it a watch soon.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of everything to do on that part. Yes, this is like a solid 9, like a really strong 9 for me. It's just like it's an absolute core memory for me. Honestly, it was probably one of my favorite cinema experiences was watching this film.
Oh, that's very good. That is.
But I think that kind of wraps up this segment. Now, there isn't one last little bit I want to do here. It wasn't really applicable last episode, but it is this episode. Last episode, we asked the viewers in the comments to tell us what they think we should possibly consider doing with the third part of a future episode. And we got some good shouts. We got some good shouts. One user suggested we rank either the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy or the Back to the Future trilogy.
I'd be definitely up for that because I love all three of those Sorry, my brain's not braining today. I love those trilogies, and I'd be up for rewatching them because I haven't watched those trilogies in a while. But yeah, I'd be up for that because I think they're some of the best.
Yeah, I mean,
Back to the Future obviously iconic, and Guardians is definitely the best Marvel trilogy.
Yeah, I've watched the Guardians films pretty recently, so I've gotten pretty fresh. Back to the Future I've not seen since I don't think before COVID, so I'm gonna need to rewatch those if we do that. Another user also suggested the Rambo films.
Yes, I'd love to cover them.
I haven't seen them in a while, but
they're really interesting because I adore First Blood.
Oh yeah.
But the sequels, I still haven't finished them all, but some of the sequels do kind of peter off into just like generic 80s action.
Yeah. Now I have seen the first 4 films, so I haven't seen the newest one. But those were all quite a while ago. Rambo 4 was last year, but all the others were like 2020, so I would need to rewatch those as well. But we could consider doing like a couple of these for a future shout.
I think so, yeah. I'd love to, especially the Rambo one, because I've only seen the original trilogy so far. I need to watch the 4th and 5th, but I would be up for that, yeah.
4th one's good. 4th one is Stallone's favourite film he's done, from what I read.
He directed that one, didn't he?
Yes, he did direct that one. It was very... I think the 4th film was very real, very raw and gritty. It was it felt a lot less over-exaggerated like the 2nd and 3rd film did, where it was just like a absolute 80s action flick. Like, this one had a lot more kind of like a kind of more of a depth to it, I think, from what I remember.
I'll probably get more out of that one then.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's not quite as like drama-driven as First Blood. Like, I don't think anyone dies in First Blood. It's just like it's really just a character piece. So it's not quite there, but it's I think it's got more substance than necessarily 2 and 3. But I think these are good shouts for future. We need to discuss what we're going to do for October. Obviously, the next one's going to be October. I think we've discussed what a spotlight might be. But
I think we'd like to do Joker. Is it Joker?
I think, yeah, Joker 2 would be a really good one to do. I think it's very different to the previous 2 that we've done in the as our spotlights. So I think it's quite good.
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
I was also thinking for part 3 we should maybe take advantage of spooky season and do a little bit on scary movies, horror films.
We could do, maybe as our spot, maybe as our Blast from the Past thing, I think.
Yeah.
We could do that, yeah.
But I think maybe for November we could pick up on one of these trilogy rankings. That could be pretty solid.
Yeah, that's potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, hear me out on this. What if, for October for our Blast from the Past segment, what if you try and find like 3 of like your favourite horror films to watch at Halloween, and we'll just quick fire 3 each and kind of just discuss them briefly.
Well, the thing is, what I tend to do at each Halloween is that I tend to have like a select few films like that, a select few like horror films or thrillers or whatever that I've never seen before that I will I will go out and watch. So this year I've got I've had things like Final Destination, Scream, Get Out, and whatnot that I'm planning on watching for the Halloween season. So yeah, we'll see about that. I'll give that a look into.
Yeah, Final Destination and Scream, great franchises. I think they're Final Destination's very consistent. Scream, like, all the films are good. Like, some are better than others, but they're all really good. But yeah, I think maybe we'll do some horror movie talk on the October episode, and
absolutely,
and Joker Folie à Deux, and then I think that sets us up for the next one.
Yeah. So I think that with all that said and done, that is the end of episode 2 of the Double Feature podcast, which has gone disastrously because connection keeps buggering up. I can't English for some reason.
I forgot to record at first.
Yeah, we had to. Yeah, you forgot to record for a good 5 minutes. You forgot to record. Yeah, this episode's been a bit of a disaster, but you know what? Who cares?
It was fun. It was fun. We got it all in the end, but
yeah.
Yeah, but it was good stuff. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and hopefully you'll join us next time for for the horror season episode with some horror and some Joker. It's going to be a good one.
And be sure to like and subscribe to Mr. Owl's channel, who you recently hit 1,000 subscribers. Well done.
Oh yes,
and I'm very close to 500 subscribers on DCS Media. So if you could subscribe to get me to there, I'd love you forever. If not, it's all right. Definitely not salty about that. But no. Yeah, with all that said and done, though, you all take care and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and see you next time.